You're not losing to the world. You're losing to your own hesitation, your excuses, your untrained mind, and no amount of success can fix that until you do. Most people are over-informed, but under-disciplined. They don't need more motivation. They need a mental operating system. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your worst saboteur. If you don't train it daily, don't be surprised when it turns against you. Welcome to StoicCraft, where we don't talk about mastering life until we've mastered the mind that lives it. Here we don't chase hacks or hype. We rebuild mindset with ancient philosophy and ruthless self-honesty. If you're tired of being ruled by thoughts that weren't even yours to begin with, this space is for you. No one can sabotage you more quietly than your own mind. It doesn't scream, it whispers, it delays, it overthinks. It tells you to wait, to shrink, to stay safe. And unless you've trained it, it will run your life on autopilot, fueled by fear, doubt, and old stories you never questioned. That's why mastering your mind is not a luxury. It's survival. Most people assume their thoughts are neutral, just passing commentary. But your thoughts are shaping your identity, your mood, your self-respect, and even your physical health. If your self-talk is rooted in shame or fear, no amount of motivation will save you from the loop you're stuck in. The Stoics understood. You don't conquer the world by conquering others. You conquer the world by conquering yourself. And that war begins in silence, in stillness, and self-observation. Not by shouting louder, but by listening deeper. This is your reminder. The biggest enemy you'll ever face lives behind your eyes, but so does your greatest ally. If you learn how to lead it. It's not you versus the world. It's you versus yourself. And when you win that battle, everything changes. The mind shapes all experience. You don't live in the world, you live in your interpretation of it. This isn't just philosophy, it's neuroscience. Your brain filters reality through beliefs you barely notice. A negative lens will always find reasons to suffer, while a trained mind can find meaning even in adversity. The Stoics taught that events are neutral. It's our judgment that gives them power. What hurts you isn't the thing itself, but the meaning you attach to it. A harsh word, a missed opportunity, a change of plans. None of these are inherently destructive, but the story you spin afterward, that's what turns inconvenience into injury. Think about how many times you ruined your day because of a single moment, an email, a glance, a delay. Not because of what happened, but because of what you told yourself it meant. Your mind is a lens. Clean it, and reality becomes clearer. Distort it, and even peace can feel like a threat. If you want to change your life, start by challenging the meaning you assign to what happens around you. Ask, is this fact or just familiar fear talking again? Freedom is internal, not external. The world can restrict your choices, but only you can restrict your peace. We often say we'll feel free when circumstances change, when we get the promotion, when they apologize, when life becomes less chaotic. But the Stoics rejected this dependency. They taught that freedom is a state of mind available even in prison, even in chaos, even in loss. You are free the moment you decide not to let external events define your internal state. No one can take your peace without your participation. Reclaim that power and stop waiting for permission to feel free. Decide with clarity, not hesitation. Hesitation feels safe, but it slowly erodes your confidence. Every time you overthink instead of act, you reinforce the idea that you can't trust yourself. You train your brain to doubt, to delay, to defer to fear. The Stoics valued decisive action, not recklessness, but clarity born from reflection. Once you've thought it through, move, act, decide. You don't need to be perfect. You need to build momentum. Confidence doesn't come from thinking. It comes from choosing, even if you're still unsure and learning as you go. Action greater than intention. The world doesn't reward your thoughts. It responds to your behaviors. You can have the best intentions in the world, plans to change, improve, lead, evolve, but if you never move, none of it matters. The Stoics believed that virtue wasn't an idea. It was a practice. You don't become courageous by thinking about bravery. You become courageous by choosing the brave thing, especially when it's uncomfortable. Your identity is built by repetition, not resolution. Act more than you announce. Build more than you broadcast. Do the thing, even if it's quiet. Stop waiting for rescue. No one's coming to save you. Not in the way you hope. That isn't a tragedy. It's a wake-up call. The Stoics never relied on rescue. They relied on internal strength, on preparation, on agency, because the moment you believe someone else is responsible for your breakthrough, you've already surrendered power. Yes, support is beautiful, but it must meet you in motion, not in stagnation. Be your own first responder. Be the one who gets up, even when it hurts. You're the hero you've been hoping for. So act like it. Growth is in the discomfort. We all want to grow, but we rarely want to feel the friction that creates it. The Stoics embraced difficulty, not because they enjoyed pain, but because they understood its purpose. Growth isn't a byproduct of ease. It's the reward for endurance. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's the forge. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Move through it. Don't hope for the perfect time. Use what you have now. Every challenge is a gem for your character. Show up, even sore. Especially then. Complaining is powerlessness in disguise. Every time you complain, you reinforce the belief that you are helpless. Venting may feel good in the moment, but it does nothing to move you forward. The Stoics didn't waste time blaming the weather, politics, or other people. They asked, what can I control right now? Complaining is a form of mental leakage. It distracts from action. It justifies inertia. And it feeds a loop of negativity disguised as truth. Catch yourself. Interrupt the story. Redirect the energy toward motion, not misery. If you can speak the problem, you can also act on the solution. Train the mind, or it will train you. Your mind is not naturally disciplined. Left alone, it drifts. It reacts. It chases comfort and avoids challenge. But the Stoics believed the mind could be trained just like the body. Through repetition, through intentional practice, through exposure to discomfort and reflection. Every time you pause before reacting, you're training. Every time you return to focus, you're rewiring. The mind is your greatest asset or your worst liability. Train it daily, or be ruled by its default settings. Trust is built by doing, not hoping. Confidence doesn't come from hoping you will succeed. It comes from proving to yourself that you show up again and again. The Stoics built trust through discipline. They didn't wait to feel ready. They acted. And by acting, they grew their belief in themselves. Keep your promises, especially to yourself. Follow through on the small things, because that's where self-respect is forged. You don't need hype. You need history of doing hard things and not flinching. That's how trust is built, not overnight, but over thousands of choices. Conclusion: the battle is within, and so is the victory. You won't defeat every enemy in the world, but you can defeat the one that talks you out of your power, the one that tells you to shrink, to hide, to delay. The Stoics weren't concerned with fame, wealth, or applause. They were obsessed with one thing: sovereignty over the self. Because when your mind is clear, calm, and trained, you don't just survive, you lead. And that kind of power can't be stolen, only practiced. So remember, you are your biggest threat. And your greatest breakthrough. Reality hurts less than the imagination. Fear rarely comes from reality. It comes from our internal rehearsal of imaginary disasters. Your mind loves to simulate. It creates endless what-if scenarios, visualizing future pain and failure as if they're facts. But most of those imagined events never happen. And when they do, they are rarely as damaging as your imagination suggested. The Stoics trained themselves to separate real from imagined suffering. They didn't ignore future risks. They prepared for them through visualization. But they didn't live inside the fear. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You suffer more in imagination than in reality." And modern psychology agrees. Catastrophizing creates stress responses in the body that mirror actual trauma. So when fear strikes, pause and ask, is this pain happening now? Or am I predicting it? Your mind is trying to protect you, but protection without clarity becomes paralysis. Train yourself to return to the present. Ground yourself in what is, not what might be. Freedom is internal, not external. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about not being controlled by what you can't. Most people chase freedom through status, money, or lifestyle. But even those who have it all often feel imprisoned by opinions, by expectations, by emotional instability. The Stoics flipped the definition. True freedom is a mind that isn't reactive to every insult, craving, or inconvenience. Epictetus was born a slave and slave. Yet he was one of the freest men in Rome, because his thoughts, values, and focus were his own. When you stop outsourcing your peace to the outside world, you reclaim a kind of power that no setback can steal. You don't need to control everything. You just need to control how you interpret and respond. And in that space between stimulus and response lies your liberation. Decide with clarity, not hesitation. Hesitation is a slow death. Every time you delay, you weaken your decision muscle. Indecision doesn't protect you. It erodes your self-trust. When you avoid choosing, you give anxiety more space to grow. The Stoics trained themselves to act with clarity, not to be impulsive, but to shorten the gap between insight and execution. You don't need to be fearless to move. You just need to believe that action is a better teacher than thinking. When stuck, ask, what's the next useful step I can take? Even a small action breaks the loop of doubt. And over time, those small steps add up to quiet confidence. Action greater than intention. You are not your goals. You are your habits. We've all said things like, I want to be more disciplined, or I'll start next week. But if there's no movement, no system, then those are just aspirations floating in the void. The Stoics didn't believe in good intentions. They believed in lived values. Virtue wasn't something you posted about. It was something you proved when no one was watching, when it was hard, when you didn't feel like it. Your character is forged in the decisions you repeat, not the declarations you make. So act. Don't wait to feel ready. Read the book. Do the reps. Say no to distractions. Make your behavior louder than your words. Stop waiting for rescue. It's comforting to believe someone or something is coming to fix your life. But that belief is a trap. It delays ownership. It invites passivity. And over time, it teaches you helplessness. The Stoics rejected this mindset. They didn't pray for ideal conditions, they prepared for reality. You don't need a savior, you need a plan. You need movement. And above all, you need to show up for yourself even when no one else does. No more outsourcing responsibility to circumstances, luck, or validation. Start where you are. Do what you can. Build from the inside out. The moment you realize no one is coming is the moment your life begins to change. Growth is in the discomfort. If you want to grow, you have to stop avoiding tension. Your comfort zone is not your friend. It's a padded cell that slowly robs you of momentum, clarity, and confidence. The Stoics leaned into challenge, not because they loved suffering, but because they knew it was the gem of the soul. Every difficult conversation, early morning, delayed gratification, it all becomes evidence that you are becoming someone stronger than your excuses. So stop waiting for growth to feel good. Start moving through fear like it's part of the process, because it is. Complaining is powerlessness. In disguise, every time you complain, you rehearse the belief that you are a victim. Venting may feel satisfying, but it rarely leads to solutions. It keeps you focused on problems instead of action. And over time, it becomes a personality trait, one that repels progress. The Stoics didn't waste energy describing how bad things were. They asked, what can I do right now within my control to move forward? If something bothers you, change it or accept it, but don't live in the middle, because chronic complaining creates chronic helplessness, and helplessness is the enemy of peace. Train the mind, or it will train you. Your mind is a wild animal. Left untrained, it will run toward distraction, fear, and gratification. But the Stoics treated the mind like a muscle. It had to be challenged, disciplined, and rewired through practice. Meditation, journaling, self-inquiry, exposure to hardship. These weren't luxuries. They were training grounds. Every time you resist a temptation, pause before reacting, or sit with discomfort, you're not just surviving. You're becoming mentally stronger. And just like physical strength, mental strength compounds. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your training. Trust is built by doing, not hoping. You want to believe in yourself? Start keeping promises, especially the ones no one sees. Self-trust isn't built through affirmation. It's built through repetition, through quiet, consistent follow-through. The Stoics didn't hype themselves up. They acted. They lived by principle. And when they slipped, they owned it and adjusted. Track your wins. Honor your effort. Keep your word, because every time you do what you said you'd do, you plant a seed of inner respect, and eventually, that respect becomes unshakable confidence. Conclusion. The battle is within, and so is the victory. The external world will always shift, people will disappoint, plans will collapse, and chaos will arrive uninvited. But the inner world, that's your domain. That's where the real war is waged, and that's where the deepest freedom lives. The Stoics knew that mindset isn't everything, but it shapes everything. When your mind is clear, disciplined, and focused, you become unshakable, even if nothing outside of you changes. So master the one battlefield you can truly control, the space between stimulus and response, the story between event and interpretation, the person you choose to be when no one else is looking. It's not you versus the world. It's you versus yourself. And when you win, there you win everywhere. What's one mental habit you know is holding you back but you haven't faced yet? Call it out in the comments. Write it down. Make it real. And if this video reminded you that you are both the battle and the breakthrough, subscribe to StoicCraft for weekly videos that help you train clarity, focus, and quiet inner strength. No gimmicks, just growth. Because when you master the mind, the rest of life stops feeling like a war.